Jill, that help, that financial help was given, but with a disclaimer. How significant was that?
That's a great question, Vincent. And that disclaimer was brought up several times in several different ways throughout Secretary Kerry's visit today. He did indeed say that this aid will not go on forever, warning that the U.S. taxpayer will not be funding the rebuilding of South Sudan when its own leaders aren't always the most proactive when it comes to doing that themselves. So I would say that this was a very key point of Kerry's message today.
Okay, well, also kind of showing some element of some sense of frustration. But also there's something else that Secretary Kerry did say about South Sudan. Can you give us that?
Absolutely. So another major point that Secretary Kerry made today on South Sudan was that he and the United States government are in full support of a protection force going into South Sudan. This protection force was recently approved at the UN Security Council, a resolution for about 4,000 troops to be coming into South Sudan. And Secretary Kerry reiterated the U.S. government's support of this force. In fact, the U.S. government actually sponsored the resolution that made its way to the UN Security Council. And he also made it clear that this is not an intervention force. And he mentioned that at least twice during his remarks this afternoon. And by that, what he meant was that the protection force is intended to allow free access, freedom of movement, and the ability for citizens to go about their daily lives without being attacked. And so that's basically what he was saying is the difference between a protection force and an intervention force, and that he is very much in favor of the protection force.
And we know that the Secretary Kerry's day has been busy. He did also tackle the issue of another neighbor of Kenya, that is Somalia. What stood out of that talks on Somalia?
Yes, South Sudan and Somalia were the two major points today as they continued to talk about regional security. In Somalia, he actually announced an additional $117 million in U.S. aid to Somalia, and that's to help with refugees, returnees, and also victims of drought. So he did reiterate the U.S.'s support for Somalia in that way. They also talked a bit about AMISOM, and as you know, and as your viewers know, the African Union has had a force in Somalia that's supposed to be helping to stabilize that country. And the regional partners have decided that by 2018 there will be a drawdown of those AMISOM troops. And so as a result, Kerry made sure that his opinion was made very clear on this, that the Somali national government must have their own troops in place and trained properly so that they can sort of take over that vacuum that may be left by AMISOM.
And on the host country, Kenya, there was a question raised about what the U.S. is doing to support particularly free and fair elections come 2017. What did he say?
Yes, he was asked that question a few times as well. And what he said very diplomatically, especially with Kenyatta, was that the United States refuses to see another 2007 occur, during which time we all know there was some pretty terrible post-election violence. He said that would not happen again. And he was also quite proud of Kenya, he said, for the reforms they've made with the IEBC, or the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. And he said he was proud of Parliament for proposing a few bills that would actually try to reform that commission, which has caused a bit of conflict in this country in recent months with some of the protests that have been happening every Monday. And so basically, he just said that he thinks Kenya is on the right track, and that they're making the right progress.
Jill, excellent reporting as always. Thank you very much.